Oh, hello there, ladies and gentlemen. How are you doing? Joe Barnes here, and welcome back to the 50 Plus Nomad podcast where adventure never retires. And I am here today with the fabulous Judy Seeger, who is joining us from the lovely sunny Cyprus, where, interestingly, I actually started my whole online career back in 2010. We actually started from a balcony on Cyprus near the sea caves near Paphos. Anyway, that's another conversation altogether. But Judy Seeger is a naturopath and founder of Power Aging Women, which is helping us girls over 50 stay strong, vibrant, and metabolically healthy even while we're traveling the world. So I, as a 50 plus nomad, am very excited about this conversation because I desperately need some help with my metabolic health. So how are you, Judy? Welcome to the podcast.
Oh, I'm fantastic. And thank you so much, Joe, for letting me be here and talking to your audience. I'm super excited to share my 30 years experience, not only as a naturopath, not only as a nomad, but now I'm 68 years old and I've learned a few tricks and tips and tricks, say that real bad, that could help the women, right? That really could get them so that they don't have to worry about their health as they're traveling. It's very important to take care of your health.
And can I just say, Judy, I hope this isn't uncomfortable for me to say this, but you have just got fabulous hair. Look at the shine on your hair. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you. But I'll tell you, I've been on the internet for a long, long time. And when I changed over and let my hair grow, I got so much backlash. And from the women, they're like, oh, you need to diet. You're looking older. I said, no, listen, I'm happy being older. I feel great. This is the best season of my life. Leave me alone.
There are going to be so many women watching this podcast that are going to be going, hell yeah, that's exactly me right now.
Well, and especially when you're traveling, it was so hard to figure out where you're going to diet and what kind of diets you're going to use. It was really a challenge. And that was the other issue. I said, you know what? I'm done. I'm just not going to do it anymore. Keep it simple.
Exactly. And as my mum used to tell me when I was young, sweetheart, you need to grow old gracefully. Or
That's
actually,
right.
I saw a fabulous it was a podcast or a blog the other day that said I'm growing old ungracefully, which I rather like that actually. I thought, yeah, let's all grow old
We're all
ungracefully.
badass women. So absolutely.
So, Judy, let's talk about your 68, as you said, and looking rather fine for it, may I say. You're running a global health platform, you're traveling, you're building a brand, you're launching a podcast, which we're going to talk about soon, and a program. And before we were talking, before we came onto the podcast, before we started recording, you were talking about hunkering down at the moment to work on those projects. So you've obviously got quite a lot you're working on at the moment. So what does power aging actually look like in your real everyday life?
Yeah, so I started the whole longevity jumping on that because 2 years ago, that's what everybody was talking about. But then it slowly shifted, and I follow some really cool scientist researcher, Dr. Stacy Sims, Dr. Rhonda Patrick, Dr. Rhonda Wright, really stellar researchers and clinicians. And they started talking about, you need to get certain muscles stronger so you can avoid dementia, Alzheimer's. And they kept using the word power. And I was like, let's switch this longevity thing. We all want to live long and healthy, not necessarily 100, that's not the point, but healthy and having the power. Now, I look at power not only physically to be strong so we can stay mobile and don't end up in a wheelchair or on a walker. Good grief. Could you imagine being a nomad and having a walker? No, I don't think so. And so I was like, no, no, no. But there's also that mental, emotional of, you feeling empowered about yourself that, hey, you know what? I could do these things. I know how to take care of myself. I could travel, not worry about putting that suitcase up on the top, in the luggage space in the airplane. All those things are so important. It makes you feel better. So I think that word power, it's a strong word, but I think it's something we can embrace as women in the whole arena of emotional, mental, spiritual, physical, and really embrace that healthy aging in this next season of our life.
What do you think is the thing that holds a lot of women back though as they're getting older? I mean, for myself, I know that I should be exercising more. And I do make quite a lot of excuses. When I went, I did about 3 months traveling before Christmas, and then we've kind of hunkered down in London for a couple of months. But I found that while traveling, I could just feel my fitness getting more because I was walking so much every day, and so I kind of know that that's what that I need to grow stronger for hiking, for walking, for all that sort of stuff. And yet I still make excuses to myself. So I think as we get older, it's kind of like, oh, it's going to hurt. It's going to be more difficult because we've got to get through that stage where it's going to hurt, etc. I suppose that's a double question. What do you think does hold the women back? And what are some of your tips for helping us actually get over that and take the action required to start getting healthier?
Yeah, so what holds us back is two things. One is we don't really have our why very clear. So meaning as we're aging, are you concerned about dementia, Alzheimer's because someone in your family had it? Are you concerned about cancer? Are you concerned, what is it that you want to be able to do as you're aging and not worry about? And when you wake up every day, there are days I hate getting up to exercise. I'm like, oh my God, another day. It's a job. I'm going to tell you how to get over that. But then I keep thinking, I do not want to end up in a wheelchair. I do not want to have dementia. That is my thing. And certainly not cancer or any of those issues that supposedly are so common. So I make it very clear to everybody, get clarity on why do you want to be healthy as you're aging, right? And as nomad travelers, oh my gosh, it's so important, right? Because you get sick in another country, there's all kinds of issues, and we could get into that later. But it's very important to know what to do, how to do it in different arenas as you're traveling. Now, how do you deal with it? So I'm a slow mad. I usually stay someplace for at least a month. I think you do too, Joe. And that is so much easier. When I was popping all over like a week here, a week there, and I know some of the nomads do that, so much harder.
Mm.
So for the people who do like to pop around, you've got to have the resistant bands.
Hmm.
You could have the little stretchy ones. You could have the ones with the handles. So, so important because that moves your body and puts a little bit of resistance on it. And then go on YouTube and you've got to follow some of these women. Look up women over 50 fitness. There's a few out there and
Mm.
say, okay, every day at 8 o'clock after my coffee, I'm going to go do that. Right. And because you know your why, it becomes like part of your routine. Right. Now, if you're somewhere for a month, what really works, join a gym. I know. Here in Cyprus, it's so expensive. It's almost $100 in US dollars for a month. I
Wow.
didn't care. I didn't care. I was like, nope, I'm going to go. And I go 3 times a week and I swim one, go to Zumba classes. You got to move on the daily to build up the strength. So the stretchy
Mm.
bands will help resistance, right? And then when you go to the gym, you definitely want to lift a little bit of heavier weights. Again, I am not the personal fitness expert. I just know that Dr. Stacy Sims, Dr. Rhonda Wright, all these people, Dr. Gabrielle Lyons, oh my gosh, have you seen her? Woo!
Mm.
She's all muscle. And they all say the exact same thing. You've got to do some weight training, some resistance training. There's a few other things, but that is the most important for us as we're aging.
So, what's the correlation between muscles and because you've talked a couple of times now about Alzheimer's and dementia?
Yep.
What's the correlation between, because I thought that was literally just a neural disease. What's the correlation between getting stronger and fitter and being able to obviously, not get Alzheimer's?
Yeah, the correlation is this, the quads, those big thigh muscles on your legs. Now we think, oh, we're going to walk our 10,000, 15,000 steps and that's enough. Let me be very clear. I say this all the time in all my videos, and now I'm going to say it to your audience. Walking is not enough. It's
Okay.
not. For healthy aging, it's simply not. Even if you're power walking, even if you're hill climbing, it simply is not enough for women. Okay. And so we have to do something for the quad muscles. Those muscles, what happens is you get your quad muscles stronger. It pushes the oxygen up into your brain. And the more oxygen you have in your brain, the less likely you're going to get dementia or Alzheimer's. Now, of course, omega-3, 6, 9 is important, CoQ10, eating sardines and your fish, all those things are important as well. But the oxygen is so, so important. And doing a little bit of interval training, like running in place and just as fast as you can for a minute and then slow down and rest and then run as fast as you can for a minute and slow down. And again, do this after your coffee.
Hmm.
Don't do it
Hmm.
first thing out of bed. Get your day started and just have your why and start doing these things to build up the muscles. So you're doing oxygen to your brain and, of course, your heart. Your heart is the most important muscle in your body, right? And you have got to get that pumping correctly, meaning that you have to have the oxygen coming from all parts of your body from the bottom up.
So I never realized that there was a correlation actually. I just thought it was kind of a physical thing and a mental thing. I didn't realize the two were sort of tied together. That's very interesting information. Um, we've kind of skipped ahead a little bit though, because what is a naturopath? How do I say it? Naturopath.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
works either way, Joe. It's all good. It's a very, very old traditional way of looking at healing. So back in the day, back in the 1800s, there was a doctor on every street corner, and they would all go to people's homes and they used herbs, they used homeopathic. They told people stop eating your junk food and get back to the real. It was very, very natural. And that's how I was trained 30 years ago as a traditional naturopath, meaning we look at the whole body, how the body is using the food. Do we need to use herbs? Is it a lifestyle change, which it mostly is? Just to throw this in here, Joe, most people think that aging diseases, whether it's Alzheimer's, cancer, or whatever, is genetic. It's now proven that 97% of these diseases is not genetic.
Wow.
It's not. It's lifestyle choices. And it's
Yeah.
like when I heard that number 2 years ago, I was like, no, they've proven that already. Wow, that's crazy. So anyway, the naturopath, as a naturopath, we look at, okay, what is the lifestyle habits? What is stress levels? As nomads, we don't always have that much stress because we're enjoying our life usually, right? But
Stress
you
of
go to the
missing the
airport,
train or missing
yeah,
the plane or
miss
yeah.
the train, go in the wrong direction. We've all had those, right?
Yeah.
But it's not so much a stress. It is really, the foods, how we're assimilating it, how we're moving our body, how we're feeling. Hormones, of course, play a big role. All these things as we're aging do play a role. And so as a naturopath, I look at the whole picture and say, okay, where is it that's happening that we need to work on? And there's always little bits and pieces that we have to work on. It's just a part of life. It's never going to be perfect. So I always say if you could do 80% of the things that are good for you, then you're fine. Enjoy the 20% of your life the rest of the time.
So what do you think is like the number one? Is it diet? Is it what we put in our bodies? That's kind of the number one thing that we really need to get hold of first, or no, something else?
It's not.
Okay.
It's not the food, believe it or not. No, it's what they're now saying. If you and nomads typically are not like this, but I'm just going to throw it out there because it's a fact thrown out by Dr. Rhonda Patrick, very, very famous researcher. She's done an excellent job. And she found and said that the studies are showing that if you live a sedentary life and not moving enough, it's like smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
Wow.
Movement is that important now. Now, a lot of the older cultures, like here in Europe where I'm based, they're moving all the time. The women are making their pasta, the men are going out and checking the animals, they're moving on the regular, right? But depending on where you're from, I know I'm Hungarian. Hungarians are moving all the time. But I was also raised in America. They never move. They like to watch Netflix all day, usually. And so that's the issue. As you're aging, and I think you said it earlier, Joe, you just don't feel like it. You're like, oh, it's like rainy out. Do I really need to go out there and move? You don't have to. You really don't, because I know the UK weather. Stay in and move.
Mm.
So what the biggest habit that it takes to do this is just use your phone and set the timer for hourly. If you could do hourly, it'd be great. Even every 2 hours, set that alarm. And then all you have to do is something simple like 10 squats. Start with that, right? 10 gentle squats, as much as you could do. Get up from the chair, sit down from the chair. Simple stuff, right? Do some stretches, right? Move your upper arms, right? Do something that's moving your body just for that minute and then go on. That's
Mm.
what we're talking about. We're not talking like, oh, you have to like shake the rope and do all these crazy things that they do at the gym. You don't have to. But throughout the day, you need to do something that actually moves both your upper body and your lower body to get that circulation going.
You know what's interesting actually is that I've been living in Phuket in Thailand for the last
Oh, yeah.
13, 14 years before our daughter came back to England to go to college, and we've started nomading full time. And while there, I had lots of expat friends, and a lot of them were athletes. A lot of them were cyclists, not necessarily professional athletes. A lot of them were just, very keen exercisers, runners, cyclists, whatever. A couple of professional athletes. But my friend and I, who were not in that gang, we were friends with them, but we weren't an athlete alongside them. We're always on a diet, right? We were always constantly watching what we were eating. And the one difference between us and our group of friends is that they were always moving. They were always exercising. They were always cycling or running or going to the gym or walking or hiking or doing something. While my friend and I, who were working, we were, much more sedentary than our friends. But what was interesting is that most of my friends also ate pretty well because they were moving so much and they wanted food for fuel. They wanted it for energy, not they didn't want to sit and eat a massive, great big curry with naan bread and all the rest of it because that would make them feel sluggish and a bit, maybe every now and again, eh? But it was kind of like that habit of movement actually then made them eat even better than, because they wanted to fuel themselves for energy. So that is an interesting point that the movement tends to come first and then maybe the fuel and the food is the second part. But even if that is the case, the food and the fuel is super important, right? And what we put in our bodies. Obviously, we are what we eat, as Gillian, whatever her name was from years ago.
Let me jump in on that, Joe, because
Sure.
just as women are getting older, they're all worried about their belly fat and feeling sluggish and waking up with brain fog, all these different things. There's a Dr. David Sinclair, he's part Hungarian, which is why I started following him. He said, yeah, I've cut it down to 2 meals a day, and now I'm down to 1 meal a day. I'm like, you're what? And he looks really, really good. And I'm like,
He's
okay, let me
he's
see
the
what's going on.
longevity guy, isn't he? He's the guy that's coming out with all this stuff about how we're going to be able to reverse aging and stuff like that. That's Dr. David Sinclair.
He's one, and then the other guy, of course, is Brian Johnson,
Sure.
who, bless his soul, he's got millions of dollars and is using it to help research to see for health aging. But boys are boys; they all want to live till 150.
Mm.
Girls are like, listen, we don't need the 150. We just want to get there healthy and live a quality life, right? So
Yep.
what I learned from the boys, though, is that if you take your typical plate that we have for our meal, whether it's lunch or dinner or whatever, is use a smaller plate. Now in Europe, they used to use smaller plates. I've noticed they're getting bigger. They're trying to sell us more, but use a smaller plate, right? And have your proteins, fats, and carbohydrates, and that's it. It doesn't have to be fancy, but here's the key that they're not talking about, but women need to understand this for menopause or even perimenopause, is when you eat is super important. So now the science is out. It's absolutely been proven on tens of thousands of people, women especially, that when you wake up, the first 2 hours needs to be a protein meal of some kind. So that could be eggs, that could be your tofu if you're vegan, the beans, anything with protein in the morning and within the first 2 hours. And then you have your big lunch. And that could be in the middle of the afternoon, could be 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, but don't eat 3 hours before bed. That has been proven that really, really helps. So women who have trouble sleeping, having trouble with fatigue, having trouble with their weight, that 3 hours, because our metabolism is slower, much slower than men. So they do this intermittent fasting and they lose weight like just blinking. And we're like, how did they do that? And we're not able to do it. But that is part of the reason we slow way down our metabolism. So if we don't eat those 3 hours, I don't eat 5 hours before and I sleep way better. I feel good. I don't, but when I wake up, girl, listen, I'm hungry. I want to
Mm.
eat my big breakfast, right?
Mm.
So that 12 hours is minimum, but if you could shoot it up to maybe like even 14 hours of not eating, that's gold.
So what did you think of the whole David Sinclair 1 meal a day thing then? That's a potentially good way to go or not so good for
Well,
women?
he's proving it. It is. Yeah, we don't,
Sure.
where does this 3 meals a day, Joe? Where did that come from? It was the food companies. Back
Mm,
in the day when Kellogg's and all those big companies, Nabisco and Nestle's and whatever, they pushed the meals because they wanted their food to be eaten. And
mm,
that's when it got into these 3 meals a day thing. We don't need that much. Do you ever notice like 90-year-olds? They don't eat that much. They really
mm.
don't. They're metabolic, and we expect it. Well, they're 90. They don't need that. Well, neither do we. Even in our 50s and 60s, we don't need that much food. We need quality food. So whether you're keto, paleo, vegan, carnivore, it doesn't matter. Pick the one that you feel most comfortable and that you feel good with, but just eat smaller portions, quality, and making sure it's the time that fits your schedule and not eating late at night.
Now, you briefly mentioned hormones, and as a woman still at 53 years old in perimenopause, desperately waiting for the menopause to hit, um, especially as a nomad, you just don't need the extra cargo, right? You just want to have be done with all of that by now at 53. But hormones play a big part for women, right? I mean, I noticed I unfortunately have got Hashimoto's, so I've got a thyroid issue, so my metabolism is on the floor anyway. But I definitely noticed with perimenopause that I was finding it a lot more difficult to keep my weight down. I would eat the same, I guess, as I'd eaten, I don't know, 10 years ago, but that was too much. Um, and you get all these other things like body aches and all the stuff that kind of. Have you got any tips, especially for nomads and travelers, how they can kind of manage if they're still in perimenopause or early menopause? Anything they can do to try and alleviate some of those symptoms?
Yeah, they might not like me after I say this one, Joe.
Okay.
But it's the truth, and I'm going to tell you what works. I'm actually, when I started as a naturopath 30 years ago in my first clinic, I became known as the detox queen because I work with people with cancer, all different kinds of cancer, liver, brain cancer, thyroid cancer, all these different things. And I had to learn really quickly coming out of school what works and what doesn't work. And I learned how to do detoxes correctly so they got results. So detoxing is one thing, and I'll tell you how they could do traveling, but the one type of food, it's a liquid that they cannot have anymore because it definitely affects the hormones, and the hormones are connected to the liver. So that's the master organ that helps to regulate the endocrine system,
Mhm.
all your hormone producing glands.
Mm.
And so the liver gets hit every time we drink wine, every time we
Wine.
drink cocktails,
Also,
every
any
time we
alcohol.
drink beer.
Boo,
I know.
boo.
I know. I lose people on that one all the time, but I will tell you, the millennial, I'm very proud of the millennials on this. They are going way the other direction and saying, you know what, we're not going to drink alcohol anymore. We're going to do mocktails. And now there's bars that are offering alcohol-free beer and these mocktails, and there are skinny margarita. I mean, there's many, many places you could do that now. But I will tell you, that is the most detrimental thing. You would think it's sugar. Not as bad as alcohol, honestly, as far as hormones go. It's
Mhm.
super, super important to avoid it at all costs. I know that's the bad news. The good news is that if you could start working on detoxing and then you start feeling better, and that what I mean by that is your skin is the largest detoxification organ in your body. And you have 5 natural detoxification pathways, but the skin is the largest. And so if you could sweat on the daily, and I know you're in the UK, it might be a little hard, but there's saunas
Very
everywhere in
hard.
the UK.
Mm.
Girl, you need to go to the saunas. I was
Mm.
going there all the time.
God,
They were
I
so
read
much
about that.
fun.
Yeah, I read that recently. How, who was it? Oh gosh, I can't remember who it was, and we're not going to labor on that. It might have been Dan Go or somebody like that on Substack or wherever. And they were talking about the real benefit of saunas. How, oh, I know who it was. It was that guy, Brian Johnson, the guy that's
Yeah.
trying to reverse his aging.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Don't
I think
die,
it was
die.
him that
Yeah.
did a whole load of experiments on
Yeah.
saunas and
That's the one.
how
Yeah.
how effective they are. So tell us a bit about that. What do saunas do?
So what happens is when you have excess weight of any kind, and women, we all do as we get older, it just doesn't seem to melt off like when we were in our 20s and 30s. And that's where toxins are stored. So think about it. Every time you travel every single airplane is sprayed with something. They
Yep.
do. They spray it with some kind of chemical. Sometimes you could actually smell it, right, between their passengers, right? Every time you go to a new country, they could be spraying their coffee plantation. If there's a wine field around there, sprays and chemicals in the water, on the food. It's not as bad as in the US, but it is definitely prevalent worldwide. And so what happens as we age, we hold on to the toxins in our fat. That's where it stores. So the more we could sweat and the fastest way to get rid of those toxins is through sweat. Now, some people say they can't sweat very well. And I'm like, well, then you could do two things. Quick tips. You get a dry brush, these little natural bristle brush with the wooden piece on it, and you start brushing your skin, and that opens up the pores. In my 20s and 30s, I was an athlete. I was playing volleyball, racquetball, running, doing all those things, and I could never ever sweat, and I was sick all the time. I had chronic migraine, chronic fatigue, chronic sinus, strep throat, gallstones, UTIs. Like I had everything. I was a mess in my 20s and 30s. And
Sure.
so I learned when I went to school about dry skin brushing. And as I brushed my skin, the pores opened up. Now I just look outside, and if the sun is out, I'm already sweating. That like it just comes out of me. And that is what helps you so that you get rid of the toxins. Yes, you could lose some weight as well, but the ultimate purpose is you don't want to keep those inside. You want to push those out. So the natural way is you could do it through the dry skin brushing. And they are very light to carry around. I mean, those who are carry-on people, it's super, super light. I take mine with me. But you could also go to saunas, and just about every city now has saunas that you go to. And in the summertime, get out there and sweat at least 20 minutes a day.
And if you happen to be in Morocco, they have hammams. I just did Morocco last year, and
Oh, yeah, that's right. I heard about
yeah,
those.
they have
Yeah,
these
yeah, yeah.
hammams, and oh my gosh, it's a very confronting experience because I went in my bathing costume, which is a two-piece with a kind of a tank top quite type thing and a little skirt. I'm very I don't like to get too much skin out, and the ladies, you walk into the hammam and the ladies start scrubbing you. That's the first thing they do. And the first thing she did was rip my top off, and you're like sat there half naked, like, oh my God. And then they stick you in the sauna and you're in there with three or four other women, and then you come out and and you have cold water thrown over you and hot water thrown over you, and you're scrubbed a bit more, and they do that. It's actually, you end up coming out feeling rather lovely, the skin feels rather lovely, but it is a bit confronting. But yes, a hammam in Morocco or Turkish baths in Turkey, I think
Do
do
they have
very
them here in
similar.
Cyprus too? Yeah.
Oh, do they? Yeah, yeah. So look, you talked a bit about migraines there. You just sort of skipped over the migraine thing, and I just wanted to raise that because that's actually been one of my major menopausal things. That's been my killer. I don't have hot flushes or anything like that, but I get these really awful migraines, and I mess around with my HRT. I know that's not natural medicine, but I mess around with that to get rid of the migraines, and it does actually work. But I saw this little TikTok video the other day. I wanted to ask if you'd heard of it. And a lady was saying that to get rid of migraines, if you get as hot water as you can possibly stand and put your feet in the hot water while putting an ice compress on your neck, does it alleviate migraines? Now, thankfully, I haven't had one for the last few weeks, so I haven't been able to test it. But have you heard that? Do you know if that's something
Yeah,
that
that's
works?
a very old system that I learned back in the day. Yeah, it can work. Getting ice, well, you can make ice when you're traveling. It's not that hard. And you just get a Ziploc bag and fill it with
Mm.
water and, get it in the freezer. But here's the thing. Why are you getting migraines in the first place, right? And is it menopausal? And I think that lots of things are being blamed on hormones, but it's not necessarily all about just the hormones. So remember what I said, that the connection with the endocrine system is your liver. I
Hmm.
think going after the liver, which has over 500 functions, works much, much better. So eating bitter foods is wonderful for the liver. What is a bitter food? Joe, do you even know what a bitter food is?
Isn't it like bitter greens? Like
Bitter
the
greens, yeah.
green leaves and stuff that like kale and stuff like that. Isn't that bitter
Yeah,
food?
well, there's a lot of herbals that are bitters and you could get them everywhere. Yes, bitter greens on the daily helps a lot. Eating beets helps the liver too. I eat a little beet salad or a little beet every single day to help my liver. Absolutely. You could also do for the liver having a little either apple cider vinegar or a little lemon, either one of those after meals if you're having a hard time digest. Liver is actually much more responsible for things in our body than hormones. So going back to the chronic migraines, when you're in the shower, and you could do this in the UK because you could get really hot water and really cold water. You can't always do that in the summer, but you're in the shower and you let the hot water go on top of your head just for a couple of minutes, and then you switch it to cold and you let it go on the top of your head for like 30 seconds even. Like just get it on there, and that shock it increases the oxygen and it's like a little piston. So the hot water drives the red blood cells down and then comes up. And then the cold does the other way. It goes up, it goes down and comes up. So it's like a little piston action, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold.
Sure.
Doesn't have to be a cold plunge. I think that's a
Mm.
little bit too much for women as we're aging. It's great for the boys. Tell your partners to do that. But for women, it's much, much safer to just do a little hot and cold in the shower. Or, like she said, feet in the hot water and then do the cold ice pack on your back of your neck or even on the top of your head. But the root cause typically is a liver issue.
Sure. Okay. I shall look into that. I shall have a look
Okay.
into that. Let's talk about sleep, Judy, because I know that this has been a very big buzzword for the last few years. I think a guy wrote a book maybe 5 years ago about sleeping, Matthew Walker or somebody like that. I'm telling you, my menopausal brain has a real problem remembering names and things these days. But yes, and since he wrote that book, it's become a huge thing about how important sleep is. And of course, that goes back to your thing about alcohol, because alcohol does disrupt sleep. What are some suggestions, particularly for us travelers, when we are going through time zones and we're changing where we are and things like that, and we're trying to obviously still maximize our sleep? What are some great tips you've got for us there, Judy?
Yeah, so those are two different parts, and I'm going to answer both of them. And I have 8 ways to help with sleep. We don't have time for all of them, so I'll give you the top three. Number one is you really got to go to bed at the same time every day, right? So as soon as you land and you're going to be there for a while, then if you go to bed at 9 o'clock, that means at 8 o'clock, you're getting ready for bed. Don't just jump into bed and say, okay, here I am. So it's called sleep hygiene, where you get your routine down and you say, okay, every night, I'm going to go to bed at 9 o'clock. Well, no, wait, I have to start at 8 o'clock to get your mind, your brain to realize your brain loves routine. I hate routine. As a person, I hate, but my brain likes it.
Mm,
So I'm like,
me too.
okay, whatever, brain, we'll go. So I literally force myself every night to go to bed at 8 o'clock and I read. I'll watch a funny movie. I'll do something to listen to music, something to just relax, right? Now, that's number one. There's number two, which is the hardest thing for nomads, is having a room that's completely dark. It is so hard. There's not blackout curtains everywhere we go. No, no, no.
And also, there's
So
so
what do
many
we do for
lights
that?
these days.
I know
Why
they
are
have
there so
little
many little
blinking
blinking
lights,
lights?
green lights, red lights. Oh my God, it's crazy. So you have to have an eye mask,
Mm.
right? Now I'm going to experiment, and it'll be great to hear from your viewers and listeners if they've ever tried the eye mask that has a little massager that goes that actually moves and gets things going to relax your eyes. I don't know. That's one of my goals this year, but maybe somebody on there who does. I would just recommend start with a plain old, either like a linen or cotton type of material, and then you put it on, and then you don't have to worry about the blinking lights and all that. That really makes a big difference, right? Now, again, this third one, not everybody's going to like me on this one either. But I do have some friends, honestly, who just say, okay, that's what she's saying. I guess we got to do it. And that is that if your partner snores or if you have a dog and the dog is in the same bed and that's disturbing your sleep, you really got to change some habits there, right? It's a matter of earplugs don't always work. It's not something that you could at this, you don't have enough as you're aging to get yourself acclimated to that anymore. In your younger years, it's like, everybody's snoring and the dogs are barking, it doesn't matter. But as we're aging, we're much more sensitive to sound and movement. So that means, if somebody has to sleep on the other side of the apartment, or you do use the earplugs or the dog, whatever it is, you really have to have a very calm and peaceful time on the bed, not disturbed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've actually got a fantastic eye mask. And again, I can't remember the name of it. I will put the link underneath this podcast, but it's really good. It's really soft, but it's got, and I was actually just looking around to see if I had it because I was playing with it earlier. But it's basically it kind of sticks out a bit. So it's got padding around the eye so that the padding sits on the eye, right?
Oh, nice.
So that you've got black inset bits, and then it sits so there's no light coming in at all. There's no place that light can get in, and it's really soft and comfortable, and it's not very expensive. And I got it from Amazon, so I'll put the link underneath this podcast. That's a
Perfect.
great, and I've also got really good earplugs as well, actually. But let's just carry on with sleep a little bit. Okay, so that all sounds great, but what do I do? How do I go to bed at the same time if I'm traveling through countries, if I'm going through time zones? Have you got any tips for like how we start to acclimatize to a new time zone and try to minimize jet lag and all that sort of stuff? I heard a little while ago that if you try and start going to bed, later or something in the place that you're in before you go and arrive at the next place, so you start to acclimatize yourself, that might be a way of doing it. I'm not sure, but if you've got any tips for that, that'd be handy, Judy.
Yeah, I learned this 20 years ago and it really works. I tried all the jet lag homeopathic pills and doing the time differences. I tried all of that and none of it really, and I'm very sensitive to jet lag. I'm very sensitive to time zones. And I'm like, wait, I need to go back to what my mentor taught me 20 years ago, especially as we're aging. We are much more sensitive to that. So here's the thing. There's two parts to this. One is that you really got to eat super, super light. Believe it or not, that because our metabolism is slow, as I mentioned before, that as we're traveling and trying to adjust, plus digesting the food, we just don't have enough in us. So you have to eat super light, even to the point where you just like having, light soups, like, miso soup or vegetable soups, no heavy bread, no meat, no, just super, super light. And that gives your body the chance to say, okay, we're going through some stress with the time zone. It's okay because I don't have to worry about digesting this food at the same time and I could handle it. Like when I do I just came back from Malaysia, which was brutal. It was 21 hours and wait times and,
Wow.
in Abu Dhabi, oh my God, it was like so long. But I had nothing but little soup packets and I had some coconut water and I had a smoothie. I did brilliant. I had no problems whatsoever. I just bounced back. And the friends that I was with said, "Are you not jet lagged?" I'm like, "Nope. I feel great. Let's go. Let's get started on it." It really does make that much of a difference. But here's the second part to that is as soon as you land, if it's a daytime, go out in the sun. The sun acclimates right away. And then people say, "Oh yeah, but I don't come in the sun. I come in at night." Well, then you have the next day. Stay out in the sun as long as you possibly can. Why? Because the vitamin D, which is a hormone type supplement, helps to normalize the hormones and get you acclimated again. So, yes, you have to take vitamin D. I recommend it with K, but then also make sure that you're getting in the sun either the same day that you land or the next day to absorb even more and calm your system down.
Sure, great advice. And again, I can't remember who said it, but I remember reading or hearing somebody talking about how in the mornings as well, when you get up in the morning, one of the first things you should do is go and make sure that your eyes kind of get full light, not look directly at the sun, obviously, but you go out or you look out or you open a window and you just allow that light to come right into your eyes, because then that's just going to kind of wake everything up inside of you. And I guess even if you
100%.
are feeling a little jet laggy, that would be another way of just getting that real
It gets your
light.
circadian rhythm back on
Mm.
track. Yeah, so first thing in the morning for 20 minutes and then sunset. Also, people forget about that one, but go, if some people love the sunset, go. Do the sunset. 20 minutes is your goal to be out there from the time it rises for that 20 minutes, and then the time it sets 20 minutes. That will help you to sleep better and get your circadian rhythm on track super quick.
Now, you mentioned vitamin D and K, and I'm going to ask you a question that's quite selfish, just for me, but there might be some other ladies listening that it might apply to. But I have low, and have had for many years, low ferritin levels. And I have spent a long time trying to eat a bit more red meat. I don't really like liver. I've tried, don't like it. And I've taken iron supplements. And last year, when I was in Australia, I was taking some kind of liver supplement. It's like I can't remember what it's called now, but it's like an actual, as if you were going to eat liver. It's that kind of supplement, which is, but anyway, all of that to no avail. Turns out that it seems my body doesn't seem to like actually taking those supplements and turning them into the iron that I need to have. But so this is like, again, a two-parter, this question. Over the years, I have taken a million supplements. I've taken my vitamin D, I've taken my fish oil tablets, I've taken my iron tablets, I've taken my vitamin C, my B vitamins to give me energy, all that sort of stuff. But I don't want to travel with a whole load of supplements. You know, I don't want a big pile of tablets in my bag. So question part question part one is, do we have to take them? Can we use food to supplement? If we do have to take them, what are the absolute essential ones as opposed to having a whole bag full of supplements? And question number two, if my body's not very good at absorbing iron, what are some things I can do to help that?
So yeah, I recommend five supplements only, and that's the base. And I have just a Ziploc bag with them for a month's supply, and then wherever I land, I get more. Depending on the country, sometimes it's easier than others, but these five are basic, and the ones that, as we're aging as women, that is absolutely essential, I found. So you mentioned the vitamin C. But here's the trick on that one. Vitamin C with bioflavonoids. So bioflavonoids are your rutin, hesperidin. Though it's like if you take an orange peel and you know that white part inside,
Mm.
that's where the
Yes.
bioflavonoid is, and that is where the natural vitamin C is the most easily assimilated. Most vitamin C is ascorbic acid is synthetic, very hard to digest. You don't want synthetic vitamins. You really want it from a natural source. So
Can I
vitamin
just eat
C.
oranges though? Can I just eat oranges?
I tried that one year. I was like, oh my God, I can't take all these supplements. So I got Florida oranges, a whole case of it, and I was squeezing it fresh every day and I was having it. I still was getting sick. It didn't help my vitamin C levels. We can't absorb enough vitamin C. That's one of those that, especially as we're aging, we have to, because the red blood cell, every one of us has a membrane around that. And that membrane is what repels the toxins and then allows the immune system to come in and do its job, right?
Sure.
But if it doesn't have the nutrient, which is the vitamin C, to help it be strong and flexible and elastic to do what it needs to do, that's where we get in trouble. So it's super important to have the natural form of it. There's like 10 different kinds of vitamin C. Just don't take ascorbic acid, people. Do not stay away from that stuff. It does not work. So vitamin
Okay.
C is number one.
Yep.
The most important one for keeping things relaxed, helping your heart muscle, is magnesium.
Yep.
Depending on the person, there's all different kinds of magnesium, but magnesium on the daily. The vitamin D with K. So vitamin K is your blood clotting one, and it works synergistically with vitamin D and vitamin C. So the ones I finally figured out all work actually together. So that's kind of cool, right? The fourth one would be an enzyme. So now you don't have to take enzymes if you don't want to, but the challenge is we can't break down our foods always, and it sits heavy, and there we sit. So if you're in a restaurant, you could squeeze a little lemon and water, drink that down. That will oftentimes help. Or having a little apple cider vinegar and then having that with some water and drink that down. You're raising your acid in your stomach. That's the whole purpose of it,
Before
right?
you eat, before you eat, you do that, the lemon and water or
Yes.
the apple cider
Well,
vinegar. Okay.
as far as the lemon and apple cider vinegar, that would be after your meal, like
Okay.
about 30 minutes. but the enzymes you would take before, like if you know you're going to go out with your friends and you're going to have, a big roast and, all the trimmings and all these kind of things, take some enzymes, right? And that way you're covered and it just digests and you feel better. You don't get that gas, that bloating, that yucky feeling in there,
And
right?
what's an enzyme then? What is there? Is it called an enzyme? If I go and look for it, do I just look up enzyme or is there a name for it?
Just look up enzyme. Yeah, just look
Okay.
up enzyme. There's many different kinds to help break down your carbohydrates, your fats, your proteins, but it usually just comes as a multi-enzyme.
Okay.
And then there you sit. You could have it taking care of everything. I could send the link if you'd like, and then everybody could see ones.
Sure.
Again, it's just something that I take on the regular.
Mhm.
So that's four. And then the fifth one, I highly recommend for people who are traveling because women will often say, well, I have my yogurt every day and that has natural bacteria in it that live cultures that are good for my stomach. Yeah, but it's hard to digest and it could be mucus forming, and that could often cause problems in our lungs and also with sinuses, that excess mucus. So I don't recommend yogurt maybe just once or twice a week. I never have. I
Mhm.
think it's a little bit hard on our system, but instead having some probiotics, some natural ones, just go out there and get the most natural probiotics you could find. There's health food stores in just about every city and take that. And that's it. I mean, people can add, omega-3s and CoQ10. It depends, of course, but that foundation of those five, something for your immune system, for your hormones, for digestion, all these things will just lay that foundation so your immune system, your metabolism stays happy.
Yeah. I'm a big believer in probiotics actually. And these days, because many years ago, showing my age now, you couldn't get ones that you could travel with because they always had to be kept in the fridge. But they have now developed, they have now moved forward and you can now get probiotics. Are they still okay? The ones that are fine, that you don't have to keep in the fridge?
Yeah.
They do as much good, do they?
Yeah, they for sure. And then you asked about the iron levels. So
Yes.
there's something going on with your blood system. Your hemoglobin levels is going a little wonky, and especially as you're getting older, it gets even worse. And you're just like, oh my God. So two things that are supernatural, not supernatural, but natural that you could take, and it's a herb
Supernatural.
called
Mm.
it's called stinging nettles. I have recommended that in my clinic for decades. It works really, really well. You can make a tea out of it. It's not, and they're in herbal shops in the UK. My goodness, they're everywhere.
Yep,
And just get and make a quart of it a day and just sip on it. You guys love your cuppa every single day, that
we
little
do.
afternoon tea,
Hmm.
but drink it throughout the day or liquid chlorophyll. So liquid chlorophyll comes from the plant. It's just extracted and it's super green. It's like dark green that's been
Mm.
extracted from the vegetables. That is really good. A tablespoon 3 times a day. You could have that. And root vegetables, your carrots, your beets, your rutabagas, your turnips. Although I didn't see many turnips in the UK, so I don't know if you guys
We
have
have
that.
no, we have Swede, which I think is a type of it's
Ah,
part of the
okay.
turnip family, I think. It's
So
not
root
a turnip,
vegetables.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
root vegetables have a
it's a
lot of
root vegetable,
minerals and
Swede, yeah.
and the green. Yeah.
Mm,
So that for soups like or stews, of course you guys have that is
mm,
lovely. But you have to work on it because it becomes an issue the older you get and then you get more
mm,
fatigued and then you don't feel like doing anything and that's not fun.
mm. Judy, I've literally got a list of questions here. I just want to ask you, because a lot of the ladies watching are also nomads and solopreneurs building micro hustles. So I've got to ask you about your crazy success on TikTok. I was looking at your TikTok account this morning, and you are rocking and rolling. You've got like 97.4 thousand followers.
Yeah, before
And
before they shut me down. Yeah, they shut all of us down who were helping people. It's sad, really.
what do you
Yeah,
mean
I
they've
started
shut you
15
down?
years
You're here,
ago
you're
when
in
I
front of me. You're not, it doesn't work anymore. I can see all your videos.
Yeah, no, it works, but they don't send people my way. Like it really just kind of
Oh, because
trickles
you're
in.
giving
Whereas
health and
before, if I
medicinal advice.
posted, yeah, I went viral all the time and people would come follow me and we had a great time and all that. But that's okay. I'm always one step ahead of those guys. So 15 years ago, I went on YouTube when hardly anybody was using YouTube and I got 3.1 million followers in the first 2 years and
Wow.
views. And so it was pretty awesome. I was super excited because I was helping people. I was like, wow, I get to touch people's lives because I'm not in my clinic anymore and I'm still helping people. I was just tickled, right? But then they slowly and surely started weeding me out, and the algorithm changes and they don't send you people as much anymore. And I'm not the only one. There's many of my associates have said the same thing.
Yeah.
So what I've learned from YouTube though is that when you're using the right keywords and SEO and all that, then whatever platform you use, whether it's Instagram or using a blog or so any kind of social media like TikTok, it will work. It will really work. And it's not that hard once you understand that pattern
Hmm.
and you're able to reach your audience the way that they connect, that they have a problem, you have the solution, it's quick. Everything has to be quick on the internet. But that makes a huge difference. I found TikTok was fun because within a year, I got almost 100,000 followers. That was a lot of fun. Now I'm going over to Substack because now that's Gary V. Everybody's going to Substack. I'm like, well, if he's gone, I'm just going to go. Because I followed him on YouTube when he got famous, but he got in with the bro club. And so now I'm starting the women's club. I'm like, oh, we're going to beat Gary V. Don't you worry. We'll get the girls talking. And so I'm going to
A
do that
lot
on
of the
Substack.
people watching this are on Substack. This is where this will be published on my Substack. I've got about
Awesome.
5,000 subscribers on my Substack. So
Wow.
I've been
Awesome.
growing that over the last year or so because I moved over to Substack myself last year. Um, and one of the things I love about Substack is it reminds me, because I started in this business on Facebook back in 2010. And
Yeah.
back in 2010, Facebook was really lovely. It was so
It
encouraging. It was
was
full of
so
really
much
lovely
fun talking
people.
to your friends. Oh, it was
Yeah.
great.
Oh gosh, it was such
Now
a
it's like
supportive
everybody's just
environment. Yeah.
saying nasty things to each other. I'm like,
Yeah.
stop it.
Yeah, exactly, right. And but right now, that's where Substack is. It's really encouraging. It's really lovely. People are really supporting each other. It's a
I think
really
so.
nice environment on there, and everybody kind of wants to help each other grow. It's that really nice. And
Community.
I don't know if that's just the people that I'm connecting with, but it is a much nicer community on Substack. So long may that last before it gets ruined. I almost want
I
to say,
know.
go away, Gary V. Just leave it to us nice little small communities for a little while longer, please. And I don't get me wrong, I like Gary V, but I know
Yeah.
you know where I'm coming from. All right, we're going to have to wrap this up because we're getting close to the hour. But I want to ask you just one more question and talk about some of the things you've got coming up as well. So first of all, if a woman listening today wants the next 10 to 20 years to feel really strong, very mobile, very free, what do you feel is the first promise that she really needs to make to herself? And some of the daily habits that she really needs to start implementing right now to ensure that quality of life and that vibrancy and energy over the next 10 or 20 years.
Yeah, first place you have to start is switching the mindset. As women, we put everybody first and we don't take care of ourselves first. And that has to stop. And so there has to be a time where you sit down with yourself and say, you know what? It's time. I got to put myself first so
Hmm.
I could live this season of my life to the best of my ability. So that takes a minute. That is not easy. I know when I turned 60, I was like, I have not been putting myself first. I need to do this. And I had to shift that over. So that's number one, is changing that mindset. The second thing is saying, okay, every single day, I know that I don't want to end up in the wheelchair, for example. I don't want Alzheimer's. I don't want to have a disease. What am I going to do for myself? Okay, maybe you go to the gym. Maybe you're going to do the exercise movement. Maybe you're going to eat smaller portions. Pick one thing. Just one thing that you're going to focus on that day. Set your phone to that timer and do it, right? Now, what helps though is like being on Substack and you're getting little notices from all these really cool, awesome women like you, Joe. You get motivated. You're like, oh, she's doing that. Oh, and this one is 76 and she's doing that. Well, I could do
Mm.
that. You start getting inspired and motivated and you feel like you're part of that community. And then it makes it a little bit easier that, you know what? I'm not the only one. I'm going to be healthy, and these other women are already setting the way. Okay, they could do it, I could do it. So if surrounding yourself with that right community that inspires you. So mindset shift, decide on the one thing, and be around those type women that will inspire you to keep on going.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I hate the word preach, but I do. I kind of talk a lot about that community aspect, getting around the people that inspire you. It's so important. A lady left a comment recently on one of my posts saying, this is so difficult. I was talking about micro hustles or something, and she said, it is really difficult though for people who don't have that support. And my instant response is, but so you must go and get it. There are so many groups and communities online now. You can surround yourself with Facebook groups, with Substack communities, with wherever online. There's communities
They're
all over
everywhere.
the place now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you can go meetups if you want to actually go somewhere physically, networking, whatever. You can get
Or
around
even when you
great
go to the
people.
gym, you might be the oldest one there, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Everybody's there trying to feel better and get stronger, and you're in that right vibe. That's what makes the difference. Get
yeah,
yourself in that environment. 100% agree, Joe.
yeah. So what have you got coming up, Judy? Tell us. You've got a new podcast and you have a program, a Reset Yourself, I think you said it was. Um,
Yeah, I'm
so
so
tell us a
excited.
little bit.
So
Tell us about your podcast and your program.
Oh, thank you. So the podcast, and I'm a newbie. I've been fighting it for a long time. I am a video girl. I love video, and I was like, oh, do I need to do something else? Oh, but wait, you could do a podcast with video and audio. Oh, good. Oh, thank you.
Absolutely.
I love
Mhm.
that. So I finally got on that bandwagon, and it's called Power Aging Women, and it's all about those pillars that you asked me about, Joe. About we're going to talk about sleeping. What can you do? Those shortcut tips that actually work for women that I learned from women, the other researchers and scientists. So we know that it works, right? So the podcast is all about that. We're going to have all different kinds of events with that. But the second part of this is people are like, well, what do I do? I don't know how to do some of the stuff she was talking about. So I've created a program called the Reset Your Immune System program, where you're going to learn the practical things, the easy things that's doable on the daily to make sure that not only your immune system is strong, but your whole system, your outlook, your body, everything is stronger to be able to handle all the stresses that you hit in your life. So that's coming up. That's going to be launched actually just in a few weeks as well. So everything is going to be happening in February. And if people want to join, then I'll give you the website. My
Yep.
website that they could get that is poweragingwomen.com. Super simple.
Yep, I'll be putting all the links below this podcast so you can get everything. You can find Judy, you can sign up, you've got a free book as well, Judy, haven't you? A
A
guide or
free
something.
checklist. Yeah,
Yep,
the seven must-haves that you have to have for healthy aging. Yeah, absolutely. They'll get that. Yeah.
yep.
So if anybody has a little trouble getting it, just email me. I'll make sure that you get it. Don't worry. I take care of everybody. And just get on board. Let's be a community. Let's help each other. Let's inspire each other, right, Joe? That's what it's all about.
Oh, it is. I love it. I absolutely love it. And Judy, 68 years old, you look amazing. I hope I look like you when I grow up, honestly. I need to, I'm one of those women that needs to make some of them key decisions so I get quality of life over the next 10, 20, 30 years. This has been a very eye-opening conversation. You've been an absolute delight to talk to. You've got obviously a crazy amount of knowledge and information there, and we could have talked forever. But thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, Judy. I will ask anybody listening if I've missed anything, if we haven't got around to some key questions that you want to ask, feel free to ask them in the comments below underneath here. Myself, Judy, will come and answer. And if we need to, we'll jump back on another podcast in the future and do this all over again because this has been so much fun.
So much fun. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Judy. I'll put all the links below so you can get everything and get connected to Judy ASAP. But yeah, once again, thanks very much for coming on, Judy. And we'll be speaking to you on another podcast very soon.
Sounds great.